Hello, my name is Gloria Mantooth, and I am here with,
Jay Harrison.
Lenora Jeter, Arieanna Mainhart, Nyla Simmons.
and we are here for the Unsung Heroes Living History Project to honor our local African American veterans and their families who served in the military and made Lompoc and Santa Maria area their home to raise their families and support the community. We would like to thank you for your service by interviewing you and learning your story, by documenting and preserving your story for future generations to come to know that you were here and you contributed. The project is being sponsored by the Santa Maria Lompoc branch of the NAACP, C4 Lompoc Collective Cultures Creating Change, the Fund for Santa Barbara, the Shumash Indians, our third district supervisor, Joan Hartman, Santa Barbara County, and many other local organizations. So before we begin, I'd like to ask if you would be signing the waiver granting Unsung Heroes Living History Project, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, the right to use this interview as detailed on the release. Do I have your permission to proceed? All right, okay. So first, we're going to talk about life before the military for your father. Also, please go ahead and state your father's name and rank and branch of service that he served.
Howard Harrison, Senior, Master Sergeant, United States Air Force.
All right, thank you so much. Um, there's no right or wrong answers, just whatever you remember, feel, or whatever you were told growing up. If there's something you don't remember, that's okay. Just take your time. Let's start with life before the military. What do you remember hearing about who he was and what he did before he joined the military?
We want to start with he was born in Texas, Cedar Lane, Texas.
Can you get closer to the speaker?
He was born in Cedar Lane, Texas, and lived there until he left going into the military.
And he graduated from high school, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters, family members did he have?
Oh, okay.
How much time do you have?
Look. He had he had three sisters, and then he had a host of stepsisters and brothers. I believe there's a total of eight or nine. So he only had one other brother, and then he had, count them off. He had Tiffany, Joy, Cynthia. I can't think of his sister. Lives in LA. What's her name?
Did he work or anything before he decided to join the military that you know of?
Well, he was very young, and we were just joking amongst each other that he may have actually joined earlier than he was supposed to. Went away to live with his aunt in Los Angeles, started community college there, and then him and his cousin went to the recruiting office, as we know it, together, and he had to have someone of age sign for him to become to go in to go to basic.
So did somebody had to sign for him to go to basic?
That's kind of how I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was young. He graduated from high school early. They skipped him a grade or two because he's very smart.
All right.
He was young when he went into the military.
So do you remember how his family reacted, how the family reacted when he decided to join the military?
And this is just going by stories that we've been told. I don't believe his mama was very happy about it.
That's what I remember my mom telling me, that she wasn't too happy, and with her
Mhm.
twin sister even, who might have known a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Known what his intentions were, so, but everybody got behind him.
Okay.
Obviously, a long career.
So why do you think he decided to join? Did he say why he decided to join?
Only thing I know is that he was insistent on leaving Texas.
Yeah.
And at that age, maybe wasn't a lot of things other than college to do, and back in the 50s, I guess. That was a good path to take. But I think he was ready to move on. Grew up in a rural, country town, which the closest big city was Houston, Texas. But he's a country boy, and went down to a big city, and I think that seemed like something he was really anxious to do.
Plus he went in with,
Went into a different branch. Yeah. And
Yeah.
closest friends went into the army. So and he chose
Who
to-
went into the army?
his closest friend growing up.
Who was actually his cousin.
Went in together.
Did he ever say anything about boot camp and how that what experience was for him?
Not that I can.
Do you think he was prepared when he first joined?
I think he was, but he was pretty independent, I think, and mature and athletic. He did a lot of sports when he was growing up, and also did like 4-H, FFA kind of thing too. So,
And the fact that he was a great student, which allowed him to graduate early. Yeah. He was probably ready, prepared. In his mind. Yeah.
What kind of work did he do in the military, as far as you know?
He was what's called titled a 702, which is basically a administrative assistant.
he worked in personnel his whole career. Type faster than me.
And he got to meet like all of the young men that were coming into the service or coming through the base. He would meet each of those individuals and like show them their way and get all their paperwork done. And he was very detail oriented and really smart. So he did all the paperwork. He was really good at that. But also because of communication and working with other individuals. So he really, really helped a lot. Airmen.
Do you remember him talking about places that he was stationed or where he traveled, all the different places he traveled to?
Yeah, we're all sitting there.
Well, I probably might have kind of the best view of that, because I was the only one. I was the youngest of 7, and I'm the only one that never traveled to any other part of the country. Just here, I grew up here in Lompoc, and was the only one that never lived on base, for sure. So I lived off, we were already in Lompoc and not out at Vanderbilt at the time. And so I say my view is because I probably had the most questions, from all of my siblings, their experiences, and just to go to Lenora's born in DC. Up in DC.
Where were you born, Lenora?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But their oldest child, our oldest brother, was born in Tucson, Arizona. He's deceased. But he was born in Tucson and then came to Lenora. And so they then traveled to DC. And then Arieanna and myself were both born in Japan.
Koda.
Yeah. And so Dad went from Japan to his next base, which was Vandenberg Air Force Base, when I was 9 months old. So that's where they stopped. That's where the travel, that's where the family stopped. He did two remote tours, one in Thailand and one at Beale Airport,
And he officially retired.
where he officially, yeah.
Okay. Based on what he shared, what do you think a typical day was like for him in uniform?
I just remember him always looking really sharp. Too, because he worked in personnel, and I just remember the shiny shoes and how handsome he looked in his uniform as he left. And I always looked forward to the different, I guess it was different functions that they had to do, because you have that traditional tan colored uniform, but then every once in a while he'd have on a more formal blue with a white shirt and that blue cap. It was pretty cool to see that. But those are the two that I most remember seeing him in.
And he got married in that fancy blue outfit
Mhm.
and uniform, which is one of my favorite pictures of him and my mom on her porch, dressed in the bush out. Every tuxedo I've ever seen.
But
regular civilian clothes.
Yeah.
Casual. I even think back when I looked at pictures from when we were in Japan. Dad was like, he took a
Remember to speak up because I'm not getting a lot of what you're saying.
Hopefully it's recorded.
for whatever reason, I don't really remember very much or hear about when he was working. I just remember them going and the coming, and how exciting that was after when he came home. And I just remember him really enjoying the time when he was with family. He used to take a lot of pictures. He was really good at photography. He taught me how to, back in the day when you had to learn how to take a picture with the f-stops and all that kind of stuff. He took a lot of pictures and he showed me how to take pictures. And he did talk to me about how he took so many pictures when they were in Japan, because he loved the country and he loved the people there. And he took a lot of the countryside pictures and the mountains and even at the beaches and snow and a lot of, yeah, a ton of family pictures. I don't think I don't remember ever seeing mom. My mom took pictures, but my dad took a ton of pictures of family. And we have tons of photos in our photo album because of my dad taking pictures. And that I always think is super special. Yeah. Oh gosh.
A lot of real video.
Yeah. And I think when we think about his work day, you can just remember how proud he was. Being the position that he held, he saw and spoke with a lot of people. And I can remember him, through the years of him working and his post-military days. I can remember how him and his buddies would get together and they would talk about work, and they would, I could hear him talk about this colonel or this lieutenant or this officer and how proud he was to have worked under them and worked for them. And he has always been a very respectful of titles, and he always raised us to be respectful of titles. I remember when I worked for him, he worked on base, ran a janitorial service on base contract, and Colonel called one day to speak with him, and I referred to him as Mr. I don't remember what his last name was, but I remember how my dad said, was not happy that I referred to this colonel as Mr. He's worked hard, he's earned that position, and you need to respect that position. Like, were you working through that at that time? Because I got in trouble for it.
I never made that mistake. So.
He was very, very, it was important that he showed respect, but then also gave it.
So did he talk a lot about friends who mattered to him, or people that he met along the way that he still stayed in contact with while he was here?
Funny, I piggyback off of Tyler. One of his closest friends, and there'll be a number of them. But David Farnham, who I grew up, I bet you I didn't know Mr. Farnham's name, and had a son named after him, probably till I was in high school because I called him Chief.
Mhm.
And that was my dad's chief at one point, and he was awesome. He was a mailman when I knew him. I never knew him in service, but um, his military friends are dear to us all. Many of them no longer with us, but
Right.
that's just Nyla saying that made me remember Chief. I didn't know what that meant, but I told you I learned more about the military as I got older because I didn't know that life. I never saw him in uniform that I can remember. He retired when I was 3, and so I don't remember at all. But being that we stayed in the area, it was it was an education for me as I continued to get older.
Mhm.
And when you speak about Chief, um, Chief Farnham was the person that introduced Mom and Dad to family. He was Dad's sponsor, and so they became great friends in that relationship. We moved into the same living community. We lived right down the street from each other. But yeah, when you think about somebody that was important to Mr. Farnham, it was probably Chief, just because he introduced us to this area.
Well, switching topics just a little bit. Oftentimes, the service member is away from home. How did your parents stay in touch with the family while they were away? How did they stay connected?
We would go every 2 years or so, because my mother was from North Carolina, and then my dad from Texas, and so we would take family trips in the car, because there were a lot of kids, so that was the only way they could afford to do that. And family was really important to him, and so we would take that trip. I think it was about every 2 years.
Sometimes it was every year, sometimes it was back to back.
Motorhome.
Yeah. We went to, yep. It was in a station wagon, this pretty silver blue color. I always loved the color of that car that we would go in, and then they ended up getting different size motorhomes that we would go across the country and to visit family. And most of the time we went to North Carolina first and then to Texas. And then home, because it was a little bit shorter trip home.
Mhm.
But I think that when you talk about staying connected with Dad when he would be away, that was always really important. Mom made sure that we always knew where Dad was, what he was, we were part of it, to the point where even though he was stationed in Thailand, all he had to say was, "I'm going to tell you Dad," because that was all that needed to be said, and straighten up and fly right. Because they just made sure that we were family, that we were a unit, and that was very important to Mom. It was very important to him. A little personal for me. Whenever Mom would tell us Dad's coming home on on leave from Thailand, I had to be the first person to see him come through the door. I would fall asleep on the steps because I was going to beat out my sisters and brothers. I had to see Dad first. I didn't care what anybody else did, but my mom would tell me, "You're going to go to bed. You have to go to bed." And I would sit at the bottom of the stairs, and so that I could be the first one to see him as he came to the door. That's just my personal story.
She said that my mom, and again, all after the fact, but I have a great picture that and letter that it's on the back of a picture of me and Lenora. And my mom said that he wrote a letter again, that she was getting a letter. Getting a letter again when he was gone. And so in one of those pictures, she wrote about how he just looks at her. I didn't realize how young I was when he asked that. He's like, he's looking at Lenora, he just can't take his eyes off her. But it's written on the back of the picture, and it makes you laugh. And just, but she was keeping in touch basically daily, because that's how connected they were. And so,
Yeah.
it's pretty,
Do you still, it sounds like you still have your family photos and items that remind you of of his service that you'd like to share?
pretty good. Yeah.
So what you can do after we conclude this interview is you can take some photos, use your cell phone and take a photo of some photos and send those, and then we can include those in the exhibit.
To do you one better, we get, for my dad's, you want to but we definitely from his a lot of the photos that we took for his program for his service, we have digitally, and so that's how they're already done.
All right.
Won't need to
Yeah.
take any more photos. We just forward you.
Just forward that. That sounds great. I think I might even have it actually. I might have it. Um, did he ever talk about any difficult or unfair experiences while he was in the service?
I can't say that he,
Well, I'll tell you a story. During those times.
Yeah, I don't, just as a family just traveling through the South, it wasn't a great time to sit early seventies, and I was telling my siblings, today I remember my dad telling us to get down in the car as we were traveling to certain areas. And then also just him really, planning trips very carefully so that he could, be able to fill up the car with gas at places that would, allow Black patrons to, fill their cars up with gas. Things that we take for granted today, he had to be really careful about that with his wife and 7 children, in the car. So,
And then maybe specifically to the service, one thing I'll say, and Nyla kind of touched on this, just on his respect for, the service, and he would, my dad respected rules and those kind of things. And I know that the time he was in fact, I had a good friend who I helped out one time, and he just retired as a master sergeant, white gentleman. And, we got to talking. I told him about my dad. I said, my dad retired with the same rank. And he said, well, people tell me thanks for my service now. He goes, but when your dad did it, I know how hard it was for him to make it. And I knew exactly what he meant by it. He said, so what I've done, what I was able to achieve, nothing compared to what your father. And then, and I tell that to say that when I was finished college, I contemplated going OTS and possibly going into service, and had a long conversation with my dad, and he was behind it. And I can tell you that I know it wasn't the easiest time for him, making those and getting things based on that, but it never discouraged him from supporting me if I wanted to choose that path. And had he not been able to handle it or understood the more positives and the struggles that they went through, he would have told me. And so, a lot of people have differences of opinion on whether we should, especially a Black man, if he going in the service and these kind of things. But I can say from my dad's experience of finality, we wouldn't have did any different. Not for everybody, but I know that it was a good choice for me. But I know that they were tough times. It had to be checked. Yeah. So, but I just to tell his story, I appreciated that. He knew that was best for his family, what he needed to do, and wasn't perfect, but he was the type of person that did the best of it.
yeah,
I don't.
Never heard him say anything negative about it.
Ever. He just didn't do that.
Did he describe the military as a place of teamwork where he felt he belonged?
Never heard of him. I mean, it seemed like he was always
helping someone or looking out for someone, getting people information. It was very, very, very positive. I really, except for history
Right.
of learning in school
Right.
and things that were going on at the time, or some of my other relatives that had told me like what it was like during that time. I wouldn't have known that it was how to get from the it was when my dad was in the service. He just made the best of the situation and always, he was always good.
Were there leaders or role models that he admired during his service that you can recall? You talked about Mr.
Farnham,
Barnum. Mhm.
Stacy
Oh,
McKee,
Stacy.
very good friend of his. Stacy was an officer, right?
Stacy,
No,
Stacy McKee was one of his really close friends.
Mhm.
I mean, what's our, the head of, his, what's her name? Smiley, broken arm. Yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah, he
One
was
of his-
somebody that,
someone I know we admire.
and looked up to and relied on would always go to, if he was gonna go to anybody for advice, Smiley was probably one of them. That he could trust him, and Dad was big on trust. You know, you have to be able to be trusted. That, one of the things I admire about Dad. You could go to him about anything, you could talk to him about anything, and he was a vault. You know, you could trust him to give you the advice that you need. And I think a lot of that comes from his past relationship with, I'm sure, his POs or whoever, you know, he worked for, I'm sure had a lot to do with forming.
And all ethnicities. I mean, he had so many close friends and people that he helped and mentored in the military that I could know, and even when he was in the private sector, and all different ethnicities, people that really respected him and looked up to him and just really enjoyed him. I guess that's why they called him Happy. Yeah, which we were like, really? But that's what they called him, was Happy. But he was a serious, serious guy, but he was also a whole lot of fun. Very, very.
What do you remember about his transition back to civilian life? What did he do after he retired from the military?
He went to work for the State Department in the EDD department. He was in charge of a couple of the areas in employment development.
Employment Development Department.
Yeah, he retired again. That was his second retirement again. Was when he failed retirement the first time and went to work for the state. And then he worked for them.
And he went to Community Action Commission. Is that a part of the EDD as well? That was another part of it. Oh my gosh, so many people that he got through training. He was big on people going through training, going back to their school education if they needed to. I talked to so many people that I could use in that news, but they say they knew him because he helped them get back on their feet, gave them the courage to go back to school and take the training classes and things that he recommended. And they said he was like pretty tough, but he did what he did. He knew he cared about you and moving along. And tried to end both men and women.
Yeah, he placed me in my first job through the EDP at 13. He had me running the youth department where they would place women or kids in jobs, babysitting or just all types of jobs. And he put me in charge of that. I guess that was a good idea. I don't know. But there was just certain things that he would tell me. Certain things that you're not going to do, and you need to do something better. And so he wanted me to have a background in that type of service, customer service, which was very important to him. Was very important to me. So I thank God. I thank him for that. I was the only sibling, I believe, that never worked at a McDonald's or Wendy's or anything. I went straight into the personal workforce, thanks to him.
And then when you kind of go back to relationship and respect and those things, so then he got out of the employment area and to acquire military buddies that we've come across, two African American men, started a janitorial business and got contracts. We're based out of what's the southern town?
Riverside.
Yeah. Yep. Santa Riverside.
San Bernardino.
Yep. I'm drawing a blank on their names right now.
A.D. Davis.
A.D. Davis and John
Meadows.
Yeah, Meadows. And military buddies, and needed someone in this area for that Vandenberg contract from a very large contract. And who did they reach out to? My dad had nothing to do with that business, but had contacts, someone they could trust, someone they knew that put together the right staffing, and they named him the project manager and had him come on board. Something new to him, but not new in essence, and held that contract, the largest one Vandenberg had done for many years. And he did that, and that was the last. And prior to that, and then did some cap stuff with somebody happy, but that was the last major.
Do you think the military service changed him as a person based on what you know?
Yeah, through him. We call it through military too, but yeah, through him, I'm sure.
I don't think he changed who he was, his personality, the drive that he had. But I'm sure that the military increased that and helped him to grow.
I get the sense that, a lot of people, especially kids today, send them to the military so they're on the wrong path, and that'll shape them and grow them, turn them into men. I get the sense my dad was kind of ready for the military, that he did, I would say he did as much for the military as it did for him. I don't know that he needed any rearing.
Right.
He was mature, as Lenora mentioned earlier, very smart. He was what I would want to represent the military, and I think it was perfect for him. I think he was very stern, serious, a lot of the attributes that they want you to come out of the military with. I think he was perfect for him. As a teenager.
I can remember he had I guess a strong voice. My friends were naturally afraid of him, but then as soon as they would get to know him, he's a pussy. Not like that. Sorry. He's that's not the word I meant. Edit that out. He's a teddy bear, He just was.
He'd do anything for you.
Yeah, there was no reason to be afraid of him because he was just a loving guy, a happy guy, naturally happy.
Yeah.
But he could be stern. That voice, just the voice alone that he had would instill fear, but there was really no reason to be afraid of him because he just he was a really good teacher.
I think he was a really good teacher too. I saw that on the job and bringing up those young gentlemen.
What do you think he was most proud of from his service?
I think the fact that he could. I think his family.
I was going to say.
I think it's his family. I think yeah, and that's what it was about for him. It was always about family and providing for us, and he was just appreciative. The military allowed him to be able to do that and to not have to worry about his family.
And he, the whole time that, at least as far as I can remember, my dad worked like second job. He was the manager for the officers club for a year, and so he worked nights being the manager for the officers club because he had such good leadership, management skills, and knew how to work with individuals and things like that. So he did the job that he did during the day for the military. He had a lot of leadership in that management, and then he did the officers club at night. And that means when you're dealing with all those officers, he got along with them all really well, and he did a really good job managing that place. And still here, people talk about when he was the manager of office and stuff.
I need something to send you. I hope I have it with me, but I don't have my right to it. But I have um, the menu at the office with all the prices of the drinks and everything, but better than that you just said on how to special. It's awesome. I just looked at it and wish I would known this before I came, but that'll be something.
When
When
you
you stood,
say, he was instrumental to the military as the military became for him. I'm sure, I know for a fact that many people learned under him, but he gave as good as he got.
Mhm.
He just tackled everything with respect and pride. He wasn't proudful, but he was proud of it. But that didn't come off in his personality, but it was just something that he stood on.
Mhm.
And that's just who he was. Still is.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about him having that stern voice or whatever in his work environment, because he was not like that as one. I was like, oh, really?
the girls figured that out.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So
There's
when,
the grandkids.
Yeah.
You know what I was just thinking about too? I know this is kind of off subject, but like when my dad was in Thailand or Southeast Asia, he was there. We couldn't go because it was like too close to what happened in Vietnam at the time. And they talked about the letters that he would send. But I'm thinking about the things that he would send us. And he had 7 kids, girls, boys, and he on his own was just like things he came back with and what he was sending us while he was there. So special for the girls, like whether it was necklace or he did things so personal when you think about having 7 kids and he was working and under that kind of stress, so close to military combat and seeing all the things that were happening. But he did extremely detailed.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you at all.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm basically just talking about how many special things my dad did for us while he was gone overseas in Thailand and we couldn't go. The things that he would send us, the girls or the boys, the different pieces of jewelry, the different furniture and things like that that we bought and picked out for my mom. Doing all of that and very personal. For as many kids as he had and he was busy, it just was like, I don't know, super special to me.
Yeah. So when future generations of your family hear about his service, what do you hope they understand and remember?
He loved his country and loved his family, and he appreciated all the people that were in his service, the veterans. I mean, till the day he passed, he always supported the veterans and the new people that went in the service. I mean, he participated in so many different things to celebrate veterans and to help veterans along their way. And was it Memorial Day that he would go out and put flags on the graves of all the military people out here in Santa Maria, which is the area he was from. And he would attend all the different services they had. He would volunteer for a lot of things at whether it's at the DSW or the
Moose.
the Moose,
Eagles.
the Eagles.
Eagles.
And he held positions. He didn't just go and participate or go to the bar and have drinks. He usually had a position of leadership in each of those places that he was going and
Fundraise.
Oh my gosh, he was the king of fundraising. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
the king.
Because his brother, this is a military-led interview, and it's just that's what he was. He was a man of service. Pretty dedicated.
I'm just so smart. I was just now thinking about how he knew in the early 70s that we needed to learn Spanish. I mean, he was like adamant about that because he worked in EDD and he saw, I mean, he has plenty of friends, all different ethnicities, whether it's Spanish, white, black, whatever. But he knew that he said, we need to learn Spanish. You're going to need it. You're going to be able to actually get jobs and make more money if you learn how to speak Spanish. I remember how I had a fit. My older brother didn't take Spanish, he took German instead. Oh no, French. He took French. He took French. He's like, where are you going to use French? It's like, you need to be taking Spanish. I took it and forgot it all, but I did do what he said.
Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for sharing your memories of your father. Your perspective helps to keep his story alive, not just as a veteran, but as a whole person and a person and a family member. And it's wonderful to honor him in this way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking us and having us.